Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 12 of Bridging Generations with Howard Snooks. And I have a guest today. His name is Stefan DuToit.
Howard, thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm really happy that you agreed to do
me
this,
too.
Stefan. I've known Stefan, what would you say, 2 years, 3 years?
2 years, maybe 2.5.
2.5 years, yeah. And he's got an interesting story. But what I always do, first of all, is I start with a dad joke. And today I'm going to start with a Chuck Norris joke, because in memoriam to him, because he's one of the coolest action figures I ever do. And here he is, everybody just telling these great jokes about him. So I'm going to contribute this one. Chuck Norris counted to infinity twice.
I didn't know he had math skills. Doesn't surprise me.
If you name a skill, he's
Yeah,
at the top of it. Yeah.
He had it, yeah. Rest in peace, Chuck Norris.
Yeah. Or I could tell another one. He doesn't do push-ups. He pushes the earth away from him.
My kids are going to love that one.
Yeah, kid. That's the good thing about dad jokes is the cornier they are, the better.
Exactly. It's a win-win.
What's that?
It's a win-win.
Yep. Okay, so Stefan, I'm going to talk about a couple of the things we have in common to start, and then I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to ask you just to sort of fill us in about you, because I know some things, but, I think there's a whole story there. So one of the things we have in common is we have Huguenot heritage.
I did not know that.
Yes, and I looked the DuToit name up, and there's quite an illustrious family name.
Yeah.
The fellow who first moved, it's a French Huguenot, and first moved to South Africa in, 1686? Something like that.
Exactly the date, yeah.
Right. And what was the name? What was his name?
Well, there were two brothers.
Oh, two brothers.
I can't remember their names. One only had daughters. So all the DuToits in South Africa are related to this one brother. And my last name is like Jones in South Africa. I've never had to spell it in South Africa.
Everybody
knows.
knows.
To spell it,
Yeah.
two times a day in America.
Well, my Huguenot ancestor was named Pierre Chastain, which means chestnut.
Okay.
And he was a physician who moved in 1699 to the James River in Virginia, close to where Jamestown was founded. And so I'm related to Jessica Chastain. That's my claim to fame. Because we went several generations down before our family split up. So I'm like a fourth cousin to her or something.
Yeah.
But the list of famous DuToits is really amazing.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. My uncle did the whole lineage before, I think before, you could do the things that you can do today with genealogy.
Yeah, right.
I think I'm the 13th generation of DuToit that was born in South Africa. And unfortunately now the last one from my lineage, because I've immigrated formally to America, and so is both my brothers. But yeah, long heritage there. We've obviously had a big impact. Well, not we, the ones before me had a big impact on Southern Africa and the world, I believe. And, as you know, persecuted in France for religious beliefs, and then, kicked out of the country, fled out of the country.
Yeah. Well, so let's start with, this other thing that we have in common. We both had marriages that didn't work. We are both divorced, and this was something we talked about when the first time I met you, I think. So we have that in common as well.
And I think our marriages ended kind of similarly in that we weren't part of the decision.
It was a shock to both of us.
Yeah.
And I'm sort of slowly winding my way out of that shock 10 years later. It hasn't been that long for you.
No. When we met, I was at not the lowest point, but I was, a couple of months away from the lowest point in my life. And yeah, it's been an interesting journey of discovery since then.
Well, that's sort of like is pregnant with meaning. An interesting series of discovery.
Yeah. I do believe I'm a better person for it. I put some work in. I do believe I'm better equipped to handle the rest of my life. I just wish my kid's childhood wasn't the tuition that I had to pay.
I know.
So unfortunately, all these things always come at a cost.
Well, one thing I've learned is, even though my children were in their 30s when this happened, it still had profound effects on them, and the effects continue. So,
Yeah.
your kids are they're not even teenagers yet, right?
No, 7 and almost 10.
Right, right.
Yeah, so they were. See, this was about 3-4 years ago. I don't even know. So they were small.
Mm-hmm.
The oldest one could kind of understand what was going on, and the youngest one just didn't make sense for her. Just,
Yeah.
why don't you just get
Yeah.
back together? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the problem.
Well, I've seen them a few times. Stefan and I belong to the same social club, and so I've seen a couple. They're darling kids.
They
They're
are.
just cute
Love
as
of my
can
life.
be. Yeah. So why don't we? Well, we talked about bridging generations
Mm-hmm.
here, and we've already talked about generations. 14 generations have been discussed already, for counting you and your
Correct. Yeah.
daughters. And Pierre, there's 14 generations between me and Pierre Chastain
Wow.
as well. So it's a similar kind of thing. But I never moved away from my country of origin, and my family's been in Colorado for many generations, for as long as there was actually, colonial settlers that came here, not Native American, but they were among the very first people that came to Colorado before
Wow.
it was a state.
Wow.
Okay, so now I'm going to turn it over to you, and I'm going to have you fill us in. And if I have a burning question, I'll interrupt
Okay.
and ask you. Okay.
Okay, so a little bit about myself. I turn 50 next year. It doesn't feel like it, certainly. I grew up in South Africa on a farm, actually. I did my schooling there, and then I did something very smart. I went to go work for a company where they only spoke English. South Africa, I think there's 11 or, I should know this, 11 or 12 official languages. Let's just call it 11. English is obviously one. My home language is Afrikaans, so that's how I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
And my English was not very good when I finished college. Also, geographically, where I grew up, not a big English footprint. And so I decided that I better get a handle on this English thing if I ever want to leave this continent or spread my wings. So I went to go work for an English company, which then set me on a path because they were a big international company, and they sent me to America for a 3-month gig. I was 24, and that was 2003, and I'm still here.
You never went back that 3-month gig?
I've lived in America on and off, but I was here for a good 10 years, the first stint. And then I, just did some international stuff and came back to the States, more specifically to Boulder, where we live now, 5 years ago when my oldest had to go to school. So that was the catalyst. And I'm very fortunate. I had lots of options of where I could live, and not only countries but also in America. And I'm pretty well traveled in America, just for my corporate career, and I love to travel. And so I narrowed it down to 3 places. Charleston, because I love the ocean and water lifestyle and climate. San Luis Obispo, which also a comfortable place. And then Boulder was the third one. And I looked at it through the lens of, first of all, good places for my kids to grow up and schooling. But also I love innovation. I love innovation ecosystems. And that's why San Luis Obispo and Boulder were in there. And when I first came to the States, I lived in Denver for a long time. So, I know Colorado very well. I love it very much. And so Boulder eventually won, ultimately because of it checked all my boxes of lifestyle, school. I'm very active and outdoorsy. And, with the university here and all the federal labs, there's so much innovation in Boulder. I knew I would find something to keep me busy and keep me engaged. So, so that's kind of how I got here. My professional career, it reads like something out of a drunken dart contest where it looks extremely random. But the theme is innovation and growth. So I love to scale up organizations. I like to manage growth. I like things that are shiny and new and cutting edge. And so the theme of my career has been helping companies and organizations grow. So I've been fortunate to do that with all sorts of industries and all sorts of places in the world. And oftentimes I love taking on a new industry because I'm a sucker for punishment first, but also I'm just naturally curious.
You're an adventurous guy.
Yeah, I'm adventurous, not just
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
personal life, also my work
Yeah.
life. And it's afforded me to do amazing things and see amazing places and meet amazing people across continents and cultures and different ages.
What about fears? Like when you are taking off on an adventure, do you go, God, this could get screwed up?
Yeah, I think it's part of the appeal, right? It's kind of the risk
I thought
reward.
you were going to say
Yeah.
that.
I'll give you an example. I'm very scared of heights,
Uh-huh.
but I love jumping off stuff. I like the adrenaline. And so once I figured out that I just get more adrenaline when I overcome my fear of heights, then the kick is so much greater. And so that's kind of my philosophy, is the risk reward things.
Were you that way when you were a kid? Were your
Yes.
parents always worried about getting you out of trees or whatever?
You know, I grew up in South Africa in the 80s on a farm with two brothers, and I don't think my parents worried too much. We went to the emergency room often. It wasn't like a special occasion to go get stitches or mend a broken arm.
Mm.
And I just, you know, I remember like plowing the field on our tractor when I was 10 or 11. It was just normalized. There was
Mhm.
nothing strange about it. So,
Mhm. Huh. Well, where are you in these two brothers? Where are you in terms of who's the oldest?
I'm the oldest, and then I've got a brother that's 2 years younger and one that's 3 years younger.
And one lives here in Boulder.
Yeah, he
doesn't
does.
I met
Yes.
him one
Yes.
time. Yeah. Huh.
He got all the brains in the family. My youngest brother got all the charisma, and I guess now that I live in a foreign country, I speak funny. That's my claim to fame.
It is it's one of those charming kinds of accents, I would say. People do like
No,
to
thank
hear
you. Yeah,
the South
people-
African.
People struggle to place it. I think it's part of the,
Uh-huh.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't say appeal, but the mystery.
Mm-hmm.
And my accent's very Americanized, even though it doesn't sound like it. But I know the look when somebody's looking at me and I can see that they heard English words, but they just don't understand what I said. I know that look. So I've adjusted my accent to be, if you can believe it, more American.
No, it's a subtle thing actually, but there are little keys that people can pick up on to know what is said, even though it doesn't sound right.
Exactly.
And you kind of have picked up on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now I have a bridging generations kind of question. Did you get lots of encouragement to be an adventurous guy? Did you do this all on your own? Did you have to, counter people that were telling you to calm down or be, more circumspect?
Yeah, I've had some of that, but I think I've always gravitated towards friends and people that I like to hang out with that are similar in their thinking. And so for the longest time, I just thought it was normal to jump off things and climb trees and do everything as fast as possible. I didn't think it was special. I just thought that's what everybody around me did, and it just felt natural.
Well, who's to say that it's not natural?
I think it is natural.
Yeah, right. It feels comfortable to you to be
Yes.
who you are, and other people admire you for it, and they find you an interesting sort of fellow because of these things that you do.
Thank you. Yeah, and I don't even consider myself such a big adventurer. I think if I had more time, I'd do more adventure. Just kind of normalized where I grew up, I think.
Well, what's the most adventurous thing you've done, would you say, so far?
Sure. The PG version or the...
Well...
Let's cut that out. The most adventurous thing I've ever done, probably when myself and a friend built an expedition vehicle and we shipped it to Argentina and we drove through South America up the East Coast surfing and kite surfing for about 6 months. That was pretty adventurous.
That is adventurous.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Well, what can you add to it that's not so PG?
I believe I've lived life to the fullest, and I've experimented with substances, within reason,
Mm-hmm.
good, bad, or indifferent. And there's some things I obviously avoid because of, the properties and, what they do to you and the levels of addiction. But I like to try things before I judge them. Not all of it within reason, but,
Mm-hmm.
so I've had I wouldn't say a misspent youth, but certainly I hope my kids don't have the youth that I have, because some days I'm not sure how I'm still alive.
Mm.
My guardian angel has worked overtime.
Mhm.
And Howard, maybe on a more generic level, I've always moved first and then figure out what I'm going to do later. I've never moved for a job because I
I
just
see.
believe that that's not my identity. I'd much rather be
Well-
happy and figure out what I'm going to do than vice versa.
Well, you're a man of faith in some ways, and I'm not talking about a
Yeah,
traditional
maybe blind
religious faith,
faith,
but
yes.
your faith.
Yeah.
You have faith in yourself or a confidence that things will work out okay.
Yeah, I realized pretty young that I just see the world differently. And I realized even when I was very young, I just have the ability to see things other people don't see. So I've always had comfort that I will be able to add value wherever I go, and hopefully somebody will pay me for it.
Okay, so now we're talking about, I don't know if you want to call them spiritual adventures, but definitely things that go on in our brain.
Mm-hmm.
You've reached different levels, let's say, of functioning in your brain, and you use some substances that assist that.
Yeah.
And I've done the same. So, and other people who I've interviewed here have done the same thing. So it becomes a topic of great interest, especially here in Boulder, I think,
Yeah,
because
it's quite normalized here.
Yeah, it's quite normal.
Once you breach the topic,
right,
there's many participants,
Right.
oftentimes the ones you don't expect.
right. Did you expect that of me?
I wasn't surprised. But you're a special person. So, I put you in my special category.
Oh,
folks
okay.
I know.
Oh, cool. Now, have you ever studied the Enneagram? Do you know anything about it?
Yes. Now you're going to ask me which ones I am.
Well, no, you don't have to tell me. I'm going to guess what you
Okay.
are. That you're a 7.
I think so.
It's that adventurous, going from bright, shiny things to other bright, the downside of being a 7 is you get distracted, you move from one
Yes.
thing to the other.
Yeah.
But the positive thing about it is your life is full of really interesting, fascinating things, and you like them. You really like to experience them.
I will say one may also, bridging onto, touching ADHD. I have trouble concentrating sometimes or staying focused, but I don't know, it's because I grew up on a farm with discipline, but I have a very high tolerance for suffering through something.
Oh,
So, for example,
That's
I'm a CPA, South African CPA equivalent, which I did because it made sense and what I wanted to do. I wanted a good foundation, but it was tough studying it. It did not always stimulate me.
it doesn't
But
really
I-
fit with,
Yeah.
so
But
much.
I'm determined. And when I put my mind to something, I can focus and
Huh.
work through it.
How about pain, physical pain?
Yeah, it makes me feel alive. I mean, I don't like getting hurt, but I'm very adventurous. I snowboard and I surf and kite surf and
Mhm.
jump off things, and I mean all of it. I've tried all of it, and I've hurt myself a lot over the years.
Mhm.
So I've had lots and lots of injuries, and I see it as a reminder that everything has consequences. And I think the second part is always trust your equipment to know where the edge is. But because oftentimes the times I've got hurt the most was when I was hesitant and I didn't just go for it. I did something half-ass.
Oh,
Um,
there's kind of some wisdom in that, I would say.
Yes.
There is from experience based and also just like how you think about things.
Yeah, I believe that everything is a system that's in balance or out of balance. And it's in one of those two states, right? So an injury is just your body being out of balance because you did something you weren't supposed to do, or the consequences. And the fact that it hurts means it's trying to fix itself. It's trying to put itself back into balance.
So as you developed this adventurous self, were there people that helped encourage you in this?
I was very fortunate to have amazing mentors in my life.
Let's hear about some
Yes.
mentors.
It's a cliche, but both my parents are amazing people for different reasons. What I learned from my mom is compassion, and she's just one of those people that she just always tries to make everything better, whether it's my garden or her Bible study group or her decoupage group or whatever it is. She likes to just make things better and prettier.
Christian. She was a Christian.
Yes. My dad, although, we had teenage years were tough, we were very similar, so we were butting heads. And
was he an adventurous guy too?
I think if he had a different life, he would have been. He's about your age, and when he grew up, you went to college, you got married, and you had kids, and you just worked yourself to death. That was the recipe, right? So
was his family a farming family?
Yes. Yeah.
So that's the same as my family as well. My parents decided they wanted to have, I guess, more adventure in their lives than. They went to high school together. They grew up in the same town. Their families knew one another for generations and all that. But they decided to move to the city, which is Durango, this town of 12,000.
The city of Durango. Okay.
But we were
great place, by the way. Shout out Durango.
It is a beautiful,
yeah.
I love Durango. But we were definitely the city cousins. And my cousins all grew up on ranches and stuff. And, I participated in the branding, and, my dad thought we needed a horse. So we had a horse that was on my grandparents' ranch. We didn't ride her very much, and she was sort of like not the safest horse for kids to ride on, but we did have one. Anyway, I just wanted to throw that in, but tell me about your mentors.
So my dad, and, my dad's one of those engineers where if you ever end up on a deserted island, he's going to build you a shopping mall on the aqueduct with a toothpick that he found on the beach, which is super practical. Lots of my skills on approaching problem solving came from him. Just a real practical guy. Mm-hmm. Engineer to the core. He just can't help himself. Then I had a fascinating grandfather. He had a big influence on my life. He was a fascinating guy. What I learned from him is to be curious. So when he retired in the late 80s, he bought himself a personal computer because he's like, thing is going to take off and I need to learn how to do this.
And he built himself one?
He bought himself one.
Bought himself.
He later then got some satellite dishes and he would pick up the weather satellites and imagery. So he had the weather report before it was in the news that night. Wow. But he was just wired that way. And he introduced me to my life of science and astronomy. I remember he had a big telescope. This was before mirror telescopes. And I remember I was probably 6 or 7 and one night we were looking at Jupiter and I could see the rings of Jupiter. And it was my mind was just blown. I just couldn't fathom that it was right there. It's just fascinating. And so to this day, I'm a huge science and space geek. And if I have free time, I learn about those subjects, not because because it fascinates me.
Well, as I picture where you're living, you probably got quite a view of the stars and stuff, didn't you?
I do.
That has an effect on people, I think.
Yeah. I think it's important to keep our connection to nature, however you define it and however you do it and want to do it. But for a couple of reasons. The first one is to see what we're doing to nature and how everything is connected, right? And I hope our kids forgive us, right, for what we've done to this planet.
Yeah.
But I believe we evolved. I don't believe it. I know we evolved in conjunction with nature, and I believe it's core to our identity and our biology. I think it's important to get exposure to nature. Right? I'm not saying everybody should go hike into the yonder without shoes and water, but I like to walk on the grass barefoot. I like to look at trees. I like to hear birds. Right? I like a cobbling stream is such a beautiful thing, and it reminds us how small we are. Right? No matter how fancy your title or how much money in the bank, nature doesn't care. Right?
And you also, I know, are kind of the head of keeping the gardens going at the club we belong to. When it's cleanup time, you're not the head of the garden.
I would say I'm the head of the volunteer organization that does manual labor. But I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Professional life can be complex and boring and, mentally draining. And I like sometimes monotonous tasks just to center myself and focus myself and just to see something physical that you're impacting. Right? Oftentimes modern work is just,
right.
it's just kind of, it's on a computer screen, right? Or it's subjective, but I like to do things where I can see, okay, I move that pile of leaves from there to there, or I prune those trees, or you can see your progress. I find some satisfaction in that.
You know, here's a funny thing for me. When I've lived in the same house for almost 41 years now, and when I bought it, we were having, our second child was almost born, and the reason we bought the house was I brought an aquarium home. And there was no place to put the aquarium.
That's a good reason.
And I thought, well, what are we going to do with the second child? You know, and so we ended up buying this house. And one of the things that was great is, you know, Boulder, for being, you know, a small town and essentially a nature-oriented state, most of the houses don't have a lot of acreage around them. They don't have much. It's houses, but I have a third of an acre in my property. Yeah. You came to my birthday party, yeah, and that was such a draw for me. Wow, look at what I could do. And I've done, I don't know, 3 or 4 different iterations, but now that I'm 76, it's sort of like, that is a lot to do. Yeah. It's just getting harder to do it. Yeah. And I hire out things and stuff, but I am starting to think maybe it's time to turn it over to somebody else, you know, that really loves nature and really wants to do something with that property. I'm starting to think
gardens are a lot of work, right? I mean, we're basically forcing nature into squares and round spaces, right?
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so was this your father's father or your mother's?
My mother's.
Okay.
Yes.
Were they raised close to where you grew up? Or
No, they were about 600 miles from me. Oh. But we used to go camp every December, which is like our summer holiday. South Africa shuts down in December, literally, like the whole country shuts down unless you're in hospitality, which is great. Sometimes you're not getting an email for 2 weeks. It's like that level of shutdown. So we always went camping right on the beach. My grandparents lived in this place called East London. And we always camped really close to them. So I saw them at least 3 weeks every December. And when I was older, I would actually go visit them by myself.
Would you?
Yeah, my grandmother, fascinating person also. Both my grandmothers, actually.
Well, say a little bit about them.
My dad's grandmother. So I'll give you an example. So she grew up she lived in the equivalent of Kansas. It's a farming community. It's flat. There's lots of corn. People are direct, right? And so I don't think I ever spoke English to her because no need. I mean, it's just.
What was your name for her?
Oma.
Oma
Tiki was her.
Oma Tiki.
Yeah. And so when I started dating my ex-wife, who's American, when I went to go introduce her to her, I told she was probably my girlfriend at the time. I'm like, hey, I'm not quite sure if my grandmother can speak English. I don't know. Actually, no, I've never asked her. Well, we get there, and it turns out my grandmother speaks better English than I do. But they just never come up because, so fascinating lady, just, till the end. My mom's grandmother, very arty, very, very stylish. Really? She drove a MGB GT until she was in her 70s.
She was a city girl.
Yeah. I mean, she had some style and class.
Wow.
And unfortunately, I didn't inherit it. Luckily, both my daughters did, but great artist. Just phenomenal artist.
That's very interesting. And did your grandparents both remain married? Did both sides remain married to each other?
My dad's father passed away just after I was born, so I never knew him.
Oh, wow.
But both my grandparents, both sides were married until one of them passed away. Unfortunately, they've now all passed away, but such is life. Right?
Yeah. Well, I knew my great-grandparents on my father's side. My great-grandmother was the first settler's female child born in the area where they grew up. So they were really early pioneers coming in. And her mother was killed by a bear.
Can't make this stuff up.
I know. She didn't die. She didn't die by being attacked. She died from the infection
Yes.
She got saved by the dog. But the reason why this happened was My great-great-grandfather had taken a herd of cattle to, it was called Fort Lewis, and now that's a college, but at the time it was a fort, and it was in Pagosa Springs. And he had taken a herd of cattle to sell to feed the soldiers. And while he was gone, she was, holding down the ranch. And it was way, like even when my dad was growing up, my grandmother had to rent a house in town so the kids could go to school because they were so far away. So it was way in the boondock. And the milk cow didn't come home. So she went out to search for it. It was pretty dark. And she sort of ran into this bear that was eating the cow.
Wow.
And her dog saved her at the time. She was able to escape from the bear, but the infection is what did her in.
Wow.
Just real. And she was from Boulder area.
Okay.
That's where she was raised.
Yeah, I love innovation. Two of my favorite innovations, antibiotics and dental floss. I think I would have struggled, Anesthesia, I guess, would be the third one. But marvels of human innovation, right?
They are. No, that's one of the things that I really get a kick out of with you is how you draw these connections that are just so interesting and they're so accurate and right on.
Yeah. I heard the other day that what a luxury hot showers are. I'd never thought about having a hot shower and what small percentage of every human who ever existed had the luxury of knowing a hot shower, right? We just take it for granted, but
right.
This is it's a fairly modern invention.
It is. Well, I was a teenager before we ever got a shower in my house. We had bathtubs.
Yeah.
But
I also grew up with bathtubs.
Yeah.
Right?
No,
showers were what rich people had.
Right. Okay, so let's get on with some more. I'm glad that your family members were mentors to you because not everyone has that luxury.
Yeah.
But who else besides family members?
I had probably the biggest influence in my professional life. I can name names, right? Or
Sure.
Okay. Let me restart that. Edit it out, please, Trent. One of the biggest mentors in my professional life was a guy called Mike Woods, and so when I just got to the States, I worked for a big international finance company, and they had all sorts of financial services. So I was one of my clients was the restaurant chain Red Robin, with the head office in the Denver Tech Center. I think they're still there. And the CFO said, "Hey, have you met Mike? He lived in South Africa when he was young." And I'm like, "I've not met Mike." Well, Mike turned out to be the number 2 guy in this billion-dollar listed company. And he lived in South Africa in the 80s. He helped build a very large chemical plant where we turned coal into gasoline because of oil sanctions and politics and all the things that we were doing wrong. And so he kind of understood my culture and where I came from. And the first thing he asked me was, "Have I gone skiing yet?" I'm like, "Well, that's a funny story. I picked Denver because apparently there's good skiing here." So yes, I've gone skiing. This was like, I think I landed in Denver on Friday. I went skiing on Saturday. Maybe it was Sunday.
You were just waiting. Like, I can't wait.
Yeah. I'd never touched snow in my life before.
Oh, wow.
Before I came here.
Wow.
And so we kind of became friends, and then he offered me a job at the company. And at the time, Red Robin was growing at about 20% a year, building 50 plus additional restaurants a year, adding into it. And the growth was just out of control. And so Mike was probably the smartest guy in the company, one of the smartest people I've ever met. And he took me under his wing. And for, I think, 6 or 7 years, I just ran around with him fixing things. And it was just like the ultimate on-the-job MBA, C-level training.
Wow. So
and I got exposed to things I had no business being exposed to at 25.
Wow.
But it set me on this path of helping companies grow and scale up. I just fell in love with it.
You liked his approach to things, like how he thought about things, and also how he took interest in you and wanted to help you grow.
Yeah, he took a chance on me. I always say my skill set is that of I'm a specialist generalist, which means I think I can do everything. I can't really, but that's my belief. But it's a useful skill to have, but it's a difficult skill to sell because who's going to believe that you can do anything, right? But he saw something in me and took a chance, and it set me on this path of, he's a very practical guy on many levels. He could understand the problem, break it down, but he could figure out the behavioral part of the problem, how to get it into a system with tens of thousands of people, how to approach a complicated meeting with franchisees, or, it's just really good balance of problem solving, intellect, and the human psyche, and how to connect them.
Wow.
Yeah.
You lucked out. And I mean, it's not luck, because that sort of
absolutely
approach
lucked out.
that you
Yes.
have probably makes luck easier to locate.
And if that hadn't happened, I may not have stayed in the States,
Mm.
right? And who knows what path my life would have
Mhm.
taken. But it's, I always say my grandfather taught me to be curious. My dad taught me how to work hard, and Mike taught me how to work smart, right?
Oh.
Yeah.
How much older is he than you?
Let's see, he must be in his 70s now, mid 70s.
Okay, so
Yeah.
he was old enough to be your father,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah. He had a lust for life. I mean,
Uh-huh.
I had just started kite surfing at the time. And he's like, that sounds interesting. I want to learn it. So we went for kite surfing lessons, and we went on many kite surf trips. So he learned that skill when he was in his 50s. I mean, I think I just gravitate towards these people. Like you. Like, I feel a real connection with you. Right?
Yeah, I
Can't explain it, but yeah.
I felt that same connection too. It's like, this guy I'm going to get to know.
Yeah.
And it is hard to explain, isn't it? There's something.
Yeah. And I have that, sometimes I can get along with a wide range of people. But some people are like you, like they're special to me. But I have that in a negative sense as well. Like, if I just don't get a vibe from somebody, like, I just don't engage with them if I don't have to.
Well,
and luckily not many of those that I come across. But
well, I'm going to say two things here. One is this connection that you can't explain. In the shrink world, is called cathexis. It's like it's borrowed from electrical engineering, but it's that sort of how the synchronicity happens or something.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't explain it any better, but there's a word for what it is. Yeah, it's a start. So there was that. But now this thing about, when you do get negative energy from somebody, were there any people who got in your way and made it harder for you, or a challenge for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think everybody has those stories.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of things I would do over again and not trust people. I think maybe I'll talk more about what I learned from it than the actual experiences, because bad stuff happens to lots of people. But I've learned to trust my gut. I've learned my gut's usually right. And confirmation bias is a horrible curse. And I've talked myself into things that I shouldn't have, because I wanted them to happen, knowing it wasn't the right group or people or organization. Mm-hmm. And I've got I'm a capitalist, but I'm a responsible capitalist, and I believe success is the balance between ambition and compassion.
Uh-huh.
So however you define it, whatever ratio, but you should think about those two things, right? And I realized, I went through some, my divorce was pretty hard on me, and I did a lot of soul searching, and I never thought I had an ego, but, my divorce definitely killed what little ego I had left. So I had to rebuild myself. Mm-hmm. And it makes you question. One of the things I did is I thought about, who do I want in my life going forward? Who adds value to my life, right? And I realized that these people that I'm out of sync with, the thing that they have in common is they don't care about other people. Oftentimes they think they do, but their behavior is not such that they care about other people. And
that's a general. So it's not like they had a specific dislike of you, but it was kind of their nature.
Yeah,
what you're talking
some people just dislike me for whatever reason, right? I'm not everybody's cup of tea. That's okay.
Yeah,
but I think so now I'm very attuned to it, like how people treat other people, especially when they get in positions of authority or wealth or positions of power, right? Mm-hmm. How do they abuse it or leverage it for good, right? It can go either way.
Well, like you're getting into noblesse oblige kinds of ideas now. And I've always thought that. Like the one thing about capitalism that I still struggle with is when someone makes so much money that they couldn't possibly spend it if they lived to be 1,000 years old. Like, what drives them then? Like, what is the point of them making that much money? And it just, like, I love this the spirit of capitalism and the adventurousness that goes into that, and inventing things and creating. But man, that seems like that, I don't know, gets in the way of actual human goals to want that much money. And all it does is, what I want is a little bit more. I've heard people say
always
that.
Just a little bit more, right? Yeah. When I get to this level, then I'm going to start being good and giving away stuff, right?
Right.
Yeah. Humans are strange, you know. I've seen it. I know rich people and I know poor people, and everybody in between are people that have been rich and are now poor, and vice versa. And I can confidently say, if you have lots of money, you can own a jet ski and have a smile on your face, but it will not make you happier.
Well, I remember a few years ago, this was back before inflation started hitting, but $70,000 a year was kind of the marker. If you had people weren't any happier after they made 70,000, but if they made less than 70,000, then there was sort of some strain and some nervousness and stress that comes.
Money for me is it's not my driver. It's a scorecard of how the world measures success. But for me, it's an enabler. It's a resource that you can reapply. It's not. It's not something that you should keep in a vault and just look at it, right? That serves no purpose.
Right. Okay, so I want to go one more subject that we share, and that is you've talked about how difficult the divorce was. And from my standpoint, the thing that I didn't anticipate was how it affected my perspective, how I how it felt to me inside. Like I didn't I was a therapist, so I heard people talk about dissociative states and severe depression and stuff, but I didn't realize what that felt like inside. It's really there's a climbing out of it, and there's also a like not really knowing where you're going to go with this if what you're planning doesn't work. I remember just walking around for a while going, nothing seems real to me.
Feels like you're watching a movie.
It felt like, or the Truman Show. I felt like I was the star in the Truman Show. Is what it felt like. That everything I thought was real wasn't real. Yeah. So I just wanted to ask you about that and how did you have someone who helped you get through this?
Yeah. We may have established I've got control issues and I'm driven. It's in my nature, and I like to solve problems. I like large, complex problems to solve. But with my marriage falling apart, for the first time in my life, I couldn't see the future. I couldn't see I had no control over what was happening. It was such an uncomfortable feeling. And also not just me, but my kids and all the ripple effects. And it had such an impact on me that I realized I needed help. For the first time in my life, I realized I need help, not a favor. I need professional, proper help. And so I did a couple of things. The first thing I did is I stopped drinking alcohol because I come from a drinking culture and I really like beer. But I realized I don't need a crutch. I need to face this sober and get through it. Right? It made a big impact. And I'm not, that's just me. I'm not saying everybody should stop drinking, but I wanted to remove the thought. I wanted to have clarity. The second thing I did is I went to get myself a therapist. I wanted a female therapist because I was clearly I don't understand women, because I thought I was doing a pretty good job of being a husband and a father. And then I joined a divorce support group. Can I mention them?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's a national franchise, but the local chapter here out of Niwot, it's called Rebuilders, based on a book called Rebuilding Your Life. And I grew up in a South African male-dominated absorb it, keep your mouth shut, just work harder and absorb it all
Mhm.
mentality, right? Very, very boomer focused kind of philosophy.
Mhm.
It wasn't okay to cry, right? It's just like it's weakness. And so I was just, I want to say indoctrinated, but that was my normal. But I realized I had to get out of my comfort zone. So my therapist suggested that I sign up for this. I was actually looking for a support group. So I'm like, I'm miserable. Let me go find some other people that are miserable. Maybe I'll feel better. And so I found this course and changed my life. Just to give you a sense, the first day when I walked in, it was Sunday nights from 5 to 8. I can think of like where you are mentally at that stage in the week.
Mhm.
And I walked in the class and I saw one box of tissues for every 2 seats. And I'm like, this is going to suck. It did suck in the beginning. But I will tell you, I learned more about myself, relationships, psychology, adaptive behaviors, communication than I ever thought was possible. And that's kind of what you referred to earlier, where as a therapist, you would tell people it's going to be okay and you'll survive your divorce.
It was
But,
like,
it's like having kids. You can explain to somebody
right.
both how much work it is and how much joy you get out of it. But until you live it,
Mhm.
you can't know. So I did that. Still to this day, made some of the best friends that I've ever made. And I would say the fourth kind of big thing I did was I did psilocybin therapy. And I experimented with psilocybin when I was young, more from a recreational point of view. And it didn't really, also, for me, also, medicine, drugs, it affects us all differently, just our biology, right? So it's just everybody's experience is different. I didn't like it much as a recreational substance. It just made me too antisocial, and I thought enough thoughts. I didn't need to add more thoughts. But to do it in that setting and in an environment where it's focused and
No, was this guided? Like,
it was
were
not
you
guided, yes.
Was it a one-on-one?
Yes, one-on-one.
That's what I did
Yes.
too. Was
Yeah.
a one-on-one.
Yes.
I was lying in a pallet. I had my eyes were covered.
Yep.
It was 8 hours later. I sort of go, oh my God.
Yeah. It had a profound effect on me.
Yeah.
On a number of levels. It helped me to deal with a lot of the anger. It helped me to see
Submerged anger, or were aware that you had the anger?
Well, I mean, my divorce certainly brought it out and accentuated whatever was there. I wouldn't say I'm an angry person. I'm frustrated more so than angry.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you don't have that sort of angry person vibe, but that doesn't say you're not.
No, but you also met me in my mid-40s, right? So
right.
I try not to be an angry person because anger is the coal that burns your own hand, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it had a profound effect on me, not just in terms of, I got a sliver of empathy from my ex-wife, why she did what she did. It helped me really understand the things that I can control and not control.
Mm-hmm.
And just to let the things that I can't control, try and let them go.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some real insight into my kids and my professional career as to what to do next. It had such a positive impact on me that I steer people towards it. In a professional, I'll refer them if I can just see when somebody's stuck, right?
Mm-hmm.
I looked into that industry as a professional career for about 6 months, got real deep into it. Didn't decide to do it not because I didn't believe in it, just the mechanics of it, and what I wanted to do. And it's put me on this journey. I still do it every 6 months or so. And when I work up the courage, I plan to kind of move into the ayahuasca and the bufa and the peyote, when I have the guts for it, when I'm in the right frame of mind. But yeah, it's life-changing. And all those combination of things, difficult to say which one. There's no silver bullet for recovery, but
well, I'm glad I asked you this question because you approached it from an individual therapist, a group experience. And I'll just say that I came late to learning how to run groups. And it's not like I was against them. I could see, but I just didn't have the training. But I did get the training late in my career, and I was astounded at how effective they are. And then the psilocybin journey is as well.
I believe that the group settings, it taps into how adults learn and absorb information. apart from the emotional support and like I mentioned, misery likes company, but we evolved sitting around a fire talking about life, right? I mean, it's almost too logical, right?
I was in a group when my wife announced that she was divorcing me. I was in the middle of group therapy when this happened. And it actually ended up having another woman in the group had a very toxic reaction to me. And I had to leave the group because she just she went after me. It was really painful. And I didn't get the support from the group leaders that I expected. So I had to turn away from it. So it's powerful in its negative effects as well as.
Yeah.
Well, we've run out of time. Can you believe it? Isn't that amazing? Wow. It goes so quickly.
I'm so glad we didn't prepare for this. We needed 3 hours.
Right. Right. Yeah. Stefan wanted me to, give him some pointers, like what we were going to talk about. And I said, I don't think we're going to need them. And I knew we wouldn't. So.
Okay. I'm glad.
Yeah.
It's my nature. When I do something, I try and do it all the way.
Right.
But this was enjoyable. Thank you.
Well, I
got to spend another hour with you.
Well, this doesn't have to be a one-time thing. We can do this other times.
I'm happy. I mean,
that'd be fun
if you'd have me back. Thank you.
I would love to. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Howard.